Ethan Cole came to Aurora City for one reason, a mental reset. The neon skyline, the endless music, the glow of casinos, it was supposed to be a place where a tired hero could disappear for a day. No patrols, no villains, no responsibilities. Just one quiet night under the lights. But Ethan had the kind of luck that could turn paradise into a problem within minutes. He was walking down the crowded strip, hands in his pockets, watching the neon reflections dance across the pavement. Tourists laughed. Slot machines chimed through open casino doors. Everything felt almost peaceful. Then his senses tingled. Not a small warning. A sharp one. Ethan slowly turned his head. Across the street stood a massive figure in a perfectly pressed white suit. Broad shoulders, cold eyes. The kind of presence that made people instinctively step out of the way. Victor Barron, crime lord, power broker, a man who carried danger like a shadow. Ethan sighed under his breath. Of course, he muttered. He tried to act casual, strolling past Barron like just another tourist. As he walked by, he lightly tapped Barron's shoulder, secretly placing a tiny tracker. But Barron's hand shot out like a steel trap, grabbing Ethan's wrist. The two locked eyes under the neon glow. Careful where you put your hands, Barron said calmly. Ethan's expression hardened slightly. I'm not a kid, he replied quietly. Barron released him. The crowd kept moving. But Ethan already knew. His vacation had just turned into work. Ethan walked another block before the tension in his shoulders finally settled. The tracker was active. On his phone, a small blinking signal appeared on the map, slowly moving through the glowing maze of Aurora City. Victor Barron hadn't noticed the device. That was the good news. The bad news. Barron wasn't here for vacation. Ethan leaned against a neon-lit street pole and watched the signal carefully. Barron was heading toward the northern end of the Strip, the part of the city owned by the biggest casinos and the most powerful people in the underground economy. Great, Ethan murmured. He had come here to escape stress, not to investigate a crime boss in the middle of a luxury casino district. For a moment, he considered ignoring it. Just walk away. Order room service. Watch terrible late-night TV. Pretend he never saw Barron. But his instincts wouldn't let it go. Crime bosses didn't travel across the country for sightseeing. They came for deals. They came for power. And whatever Barron was planning inside Aurora City's casinos was big enough to risk showing his face in public. The tracker stopped moving. Ethan zoomed in on the map. The signal was now sitting inside one of the tallest buildings on the Strip, the Valenti Grand, a casino known for its luxury suites and extremely private meetings. Ethan exhaled slowly. So much for a quiet night. Minutes later, he slipped into a dark alley between two glowing hotels. His backpack opened. Inside was the suit. Black fabric, red patterns, lightweight armor. Nightweaver. Ethan pulled the mask over his face. The city lights reflected off the lenses. His mental health day was officially over. Nightweaver moved across the skyline of Aurora City, like a shadow between neon lights. The Valenti Grand towered over the Strip, its glass walls glowing with gold and violet reflections from the surrounding casinos. Music drifted up from the streets below. Tourists laughed, unaware that something far more serious was unfolding above them. Nightweaver landed quietly on the rooftop. He checked the tracker signal again. Top floor. Penthouse level. Of course it's the penthouse, he whispered. Luxury buildings love their private meeting rooms at the top, far away from cameras, tourists, and curious eyes. Nightweaver crawled along the roof edge and found a ventilation shaft leading down into the building. With careful movements, he slipped inside, climbing silently through the narrow metal tunnels. Voices echoed faintly through the vents. He moved closer. Soon he could see light through the metal grates. Nightweaver slowly looked down. Inside the massive penthouse suite stood a long marble table. Expensive paintings hung on the walls. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the entire glowing city outside. Victor Barron stood near the center of the room, massive and confident. Across from him sat a calm man in a dark suit, sipping a drink like he owned the entire building. Marco Valenti, casino king of Aurora City. Nightweaver stayed perfectly still above them as the conversation continued. Barron spread his hands confidently. The city is changing, Barron said. And the Maggia families are becoming a problem. Valenti didn't look impressed. He simply took another sip of his drink. Then he said something unexpected. The Maggia aren't a problem anymore. Barron frowned. What do you mean? Before Valenti could answer, a calm voice spoke from the shadows behind him. Because we handled it. The room went quiet. Victor Barron slowly turned toward the dark corner of the penthouse. Heavy footsteps echoed across the marble floor. Out of the shadows stepped a tall man in a perfectly tailored gray suit. His shoulders were broad, his posture relaxed like he had all the time in the world. Dark hair slicked back. A faint smell of expensive cigars seemed to follow him. Nightweaver blinked from inside the vent. The man looked like a casino manager. But he moved like something much more dangerous. Marco Valenti smiled slightly. Victor, meet Mr. Slate. Mr. Slate calmly adjusted the cuffs of his suit jacket. Nice place, he said, in a smooth, almost bored voice. Barron's expression hardened. You're telling me you wiped out the Maggia families? Slate shrugged lightly. They were bad for business. Baron slammed his massive fist onto the marble table. The loud crack echoed through the penthouse. You expect me to believe one man did that? Slate glanced at the broken edge of the table and sighed. We're billing you for that. One of Baron's guards suddenly stepped forward, clearly nervous. He pulled a pistol and aimed it directly at Slate's chest. Nightweaver tensed in the vent. The gun fired. The shot exploded through the quiet room. The bullet struck Mr. Slate in the chest. For 1 second, the entire penthouse froze. Then the bullet simply fell to the floor. Mr. Slate looked down at his suit, brushed invisible dust from the fabric, and calmly looked back up. Nightweaver whispered to himself above the vent. Oh. This just got interesting. The guard's hand began to shake. The gun slowly lowered as the reality of what just happened settled in. The bullet had hit Mr. Slate square in the chest, and done absolutely nothing. The small piece of metal rolled across the marble floor with a quiet clink. Mr. Slate looked down at it with mild disappointment. New suit, he said calmly. That was expensive. The guard took a step back. Victor Baron's eyes burned with anger, but something else was there too: confusion. Men like him built power by controlling fear, and right now he had no idea what he was looking at. Above them, Nightweaver finally decided things had gone far enough. A web shot through the air. Twip. The gun flew out of the guard's hand and stuck to the far wall. Nightweaver dropped from the vent, landing lightly on the marble floor between them. Okay, he said, raising both hands casually. Let's all relax. This is starting to look less like a business meeting and more like a very bad poker night. No one laughed. Baron's jaw tightened. You again. Nightweaver tilted his head. Good memory. Mr. Slate leaned slightly against the table, watching the scene with quiet amusement, like someone observing a show he had already seen before. Baron ignored the hero completely. His focus locked onto Mr. Slate. You think you can walk into my territory, Baron growled, destroy my operations, and sit at this table like you belong here? Mr. Slate sighed softly. I already did. That was the moment Baron snapped. With a roar, the massive crime lord charged forward, his fist flying toward Mr. Slate with enough force to break ribs. Nightweaver whispered under his breath. This is going to end badly. Victor Baron's massive fist cut through the air like a wrecking ball. The punch would have shattered a normal man's ribs. Baron had built his reputation on strength, intimidation, and the simple belief that no one could stand against him. But Mr. Slate didn't even step back. His hand moved faster than anyone in the room expected. He caught Baron's fist in midair. The impact stopped instantly, like a train slamming into a mountain. For a moment the entire penthouse went silent. Baron pushed forward, muscles straining, trying to force the punch through. His face turned red with effort. Mr. Slate didn't move an inch. Nightweaver slowly took a step back. Wow, he whispered. Baron pulled his fist away, and swung again, a brutal hook aimed at Slate's jaw. Slate caught that one too. Then another. And another. Each strike stopped effortlessly in Slate's grip. Baron's breathing grew heavier. Sweat formed on his forehead. For the first time in years the crime lord looked unsure. Mr. Slate tilted his head slightly, studying him like a bored teacher watching a student fail a test. You done? Slate asked calmly. Baron roared and tried one final charge, throwing his entire body forward. That was the moment everything ended. Mr. Slate grabbed Baron by the suit jacket and lifted him off the ground like he weighed nothing. The room watched in stunned silence. Nightweaver realized something very clear. This wasn't a fight. Baron had already lost. He just didn't know it yet. Mr. Slate looked almost disappointed. Victor Baron struggled in his grip feet, barely touching the marble floor. The powerful crime lord who terrified entire cities now looked small, like a man who had walked into the wrong room. Nightweaver leaned casually against the wall, watching the moment unfold. Well, he muttered, this escalated fast. With one simple motion, Mr. Slate lifted Baron higher, then slammed him down onto the marble floor. The entire penthouse shook. Somewhere far below in the casino levels, glasses rattled and slot machines flickered as if a small earthquake had rolled through the building. Baron groaned, trying to push himself up. Mr. Slate calmly stepped forward and straightened his gray suit like a man adjusting his clothes after a meeting. Then he grabbed Baron again and dropped him back down. Harder. The marble floor cracked. Baron's guards froze. None of them dared move. Nightweaver raised his eyebrows behind the mask. Okay. That one looked expensive. Mr. Slate crouched down beside Baron, who was now bleeding and barely conscious. Listen carefully, Slate said calmly. Baron glared up at him but said nothing. Slate smiled slightly. Say it's over. Baron hesitated. Mr. Slate gently tapped the cracked floor beside his head. Baron swallowed. It's over. Slate nodded. Good. Now say it in French. Baron blinked. Nightweaver burst out laughing. Oh no. C'est fini, Baron muttered weakly. Slate leaned back with satisfaction. And now, he said calmly, Pig Latin. Nightweaver covered his mask with one hand. This is the most embarrassing thing I've ever seen. Victor Baron was dragged out of the penthouse an hour later. His expensive white suit was torn, his face bruised, and his guards carefully supported him as they moved toward the private elevator. One of them nervously whispered that he was bleeding. Baron barely listened. Even in defeat, his eyes burned with quiet rage. He thinks this is over, Baron muttered weakly. I'll destroy him. Nightweaver watched from the balcony. Sure, he whispered. And a goldfish will defeat a shark someday. Inside the penthouse, Marco Valenti calmly poured another drink. The casino boss looked completely relaxed, like the entire disaster had simply been an interesting evening. He turned to Nightweaver. You handled things professionally, Valenti said. You should stay. A luxury suite is available for you. Food, drinks, everything covered. Nightweaver blinked. A free penthouse suite. For a moment, Ethan Cole, the exhausted human behind the mask, seriously considered it. Then he heard music coming from another hallway. Curious, he followed the sound. He opened the door. Inside was a full Vegas-style party. Bright lights, music, people laughing, drinks everywhere. In the center of it all sat Mr. Slate on a couch, perfectly relaxed, holding a glass and enjoying the chaos. He spotted Nightweaver and waved. Hey Spidey, he said with a grin. Make yourself comfortable. What happens in Aurora City stays in Aurora City. Nightweaver looked around. His senses were calm. Baron was gone. The casino was safe. The city was quiet again. He slowly backed out of the room. Room service, he muttered. Definitely room service. Ethan Cole came to Aurora City for emotional recovery. He left with a free luxury suite, a strange new ally, and the unforgettable memory of Victor Baron speaking Pig Latin. Honestly, for him that counted as a peaceful vacation. Comment 1 for the next part.